The room was cramped, lit by the harsh blue glow of old monitors. Static hissed softly through the speakers, the kind of background noise that made the air feel heavier than it was. Ben stood alone at the console, one hand gripping the back of the chair, the other holding the radio handset so tightly his knuckles had gone white. He took a breath. Steady. Focused.
Chief, it's Calder. I need to update my report.
A pause. Then the familiar voice crackled through. Calm, authoritative, slightly impatient.
Go ahead, Calder.
Ben swallowed, forcing the words out.
I'm telling you, Harry isn't Harry.
And so you said last time.
Ben leaned closer to the mic, voice low, tight.
I heard him use another name. Daniel.
A pause. Longer this time.
And the crew?
They're acting strange. Either they're covering for him, or they're in the dark.
The chief exhaled slowly, a sound Ben had learned to recognize. It meant the situation had crossed a line.
All right, Calder. Evangelina is inbound. We'll be ready.
Ben closed his eyes, relief and dread mixing in his chest.
Thank you, sir.
He lowered the handset. The radio clicked back into static. Ben didn't understand the name, but the feeling, the wrongness was real. Ben stepped back from the console, jaw tight, eyes fixed on the docking schedule glowing on the wall. The corridor behind the hospital was dim and narrow, lit only by a couple of light bulbs in the ceiling. The hum of distant machinery echoed through the walls. Ventilation, generators, the quiet pulse of a building that never truly slept. Amanda stood with her back pressed against the cold tile, listening for movements. Her breath came out in short, uneven bursts. She kept glancing toward the far end of the corridor, as if expecting someone to appear at any moment. James had been with her and Daniel earlier this afternoon, but he'd left for the club over an hour ago. Eric slipped in through the service door, letting it close softly behind him.
You said it was urgent. What's going on?
Amanda didn't answer immediately. She swallowed hard, eyes fixed on the shadows.
He's here.
Eric frowned.
Who's here?
The agent.
Eric blinked, confused.
What does he want?
Amanda looked away, jaw tightening.
Daniel.
Why?
Amanda hesitated, a long, heavy pause.
They have plans. I don't know the details, but I know enough.
Who? How do you...
She hushed him sharply, eyes darting down the corridor. Eric swallowed hard.
So, what do we do?
Amanda closed her eyes for a moment, steadying herself. When she opened them again, something had changed. Resolve. Fear sharpened into purpose.
We keep Daniel alive. At any cost.
A distant sound echoed through the corridor, a door opening somewhere deeper in the hospital. Amanda stiffened.
He's getting closer.
Eric touched her arm gently.
Then we move. Now.
They slipped into the shadows just as footsteps approached from the far end. 20 minutes earlier, just outside the hospital. The hospital entrance was quiet at this hour, just the soft hum of automatic doors and the distant wail of a siren somewhere in the city. A thin layer of fog clung to the ground, drifting around the streetlights like pale smoke. The union agent stepped out of the shadows and onto the pavement. His coat barely moved in the cold air. His expression was unreadable. He paused at the edge of the parking lot, eyes scanning the building with slow, deliberate precision. He didn't look for people. He looked for patterns, movement, heat signatures, structural weaknesses, the subtle distortions left behind by displacement. He raised a small, flat device. A thin strip of light along its edge flickered to life. The agent swept it in a controlled arc across the hospital facade. He paced slowly toward the entrance, holding the device steady in front of him. The device pulsed. Once. Twice. Then steadied into a cold, white glow. Suddenly, the entrance doors slid open. A mother and her young son stepped out into the fog. The boy stopped mid-stride, staring at the agent's device with wide, fascinated eyes.
Whoa, that's a cool phone.
The agent froze. Not startled, just interrupted. He turned his head with slow, mechanical precision and redirected the scanner toward the boy. The device flickered. A soft, analytical hum.
Interesting.
The mother's entire posture changed, a subtle, primal chill running through her.
Lenny, come here, now!
She grabbed his arm, pulling him back with a trembling apology.
I'm so sorry, sir.
The agent didn't respond. He had already dismissed them, turning the scanner back toward the building, as if the interruption had been nothing more than background noise. The mother hurried away, glancing back only once, and regretting it instantly. The device pulsed. Once. Twice. Then steadied into a cold, white glow.
Subject proximity increasing.
He lowered the device and began walking toward the entrance, calm, unhurried, inevitable. He didn't need to run. He didn't need to search. The trail was clear now. The echo was stronger. The subject was close. Automatic doors slid open as he approached, bathing him in sterile hospital light. He stepped inside without breaking stride. The cockpit was quiet, lit by the soft glow of approaching traffic beacons. Port Helix filled the forward window, a sprawling ring of lights suspended above the dark curve of the planet, pulsing like a mechanical heart. Trevor sat in the co-pilot's chair, staring out. The colors were too strong, the blues too deep, the reds too sharp. The air in the cockpit felt thick, almost oily, as if the ship were pushing through something heavier than atmosphere. Cullen adjusted the approach vector, hands steady on the controls.
Docking corridor acquired. Port Helix traffic control has us on a slow approach.
Pamela leaned forward, studying the incoming data.
They're busy tonight, more than usual.
Ben stood behind them, arms crossed, eyes fixed on Trevor more than the window. Trevor didn't notice. He was still staring at the city station ahead. Port Helix grew larger, a massive, rotating structure of steel and light, its docking arms stretching out like the ribs of a colossal machine. It was the center of political and economic power in the Helix Territories, a place where deals were made, alliances forged, and people disappeared without a trace. Trevor had heard the stories. Everyone had. But seeing it was different. Trevor blinked. For a moment, the lights blurred, streaks of color bending in ways they shouldn't. He inhaled sharply. Pamela noticed.
Harry, you okay?
Trevor nodded, though his voice was distant.
Yeah, just the colors. They're a bit much.
Cullen glanced over.
Harry, first time here?
Trevor nodded quietly.
It's the atmospheric scatter from the docking field. Happens sometimes.
Trevor nodded again, but his hand drifted unconsciously to his chest, to the place where Daniel's presence used to be. The silence answered him. Ben shifted his weight, eyes narrowing. Cullen initiated the final approach.
All right, brace for docking. Port Helix, here we come.
Evangelina glided toward the docking arms, swallowed by the glow of the station. Trevor kept staring into the light, drawn to it, unsettled by it. The handler's ship hung in the darkness, like a shard of obsidian. No lights, no signature, just a silent shape against the stars. Inside, the cockpit was dim. Only tactical displays glowed. Evangelina's signal pulsed on the hollow. Small, civilian, predictable. The handler zoomed in, watching the ship drift toward Port Helix. A faint smile touched his lips. Predatory. Controlled.
They won't escape.
He reached toward the console, fingers hovering over the encrypted comms switch, the one that would report his position to base. He paused. Entering Syndicate territory required authorization. Reporting it would trigger protocols, questions, oversight, and he had no intention of being watched. Slowly, deliberately, he lowered his hand.
No transmissions. Not here.
He tapped a different control instead. Silent mode. Full masking. His ship shifted course, sliding into the inbound traffic lane behind Evangelina, hidden among the shadows of larger vessels. He would follow them in, unseen, unannounced, under the Syndicate's nose. The handler's smile returned, thinner this time. He watched Evangelina disappear into the glow of Port Helix. Then he followed. Trevor sat alone on the edge of his bunk, elbows on his knees, hands clasped tightly together. The room felt smaller than before, the air heavier. Outside the door, Cullen's voice carried through the corridor, steady, professional.
Prepare for arrival inspection. 10 minutes.
Footsteps, voices, the crew moving with purpose. Trevor didn't move. He stared at the floor, breathing slowly. Nothing. He couldn't let go of the itchy feeling that came over him when they approached Port Helix. Trevor lifted his head slightly.
This place. I know this feeling. Danger's here. But what?
No answer. Just the hum of the ship. The distant sound of movement outside. Trevor closed his eyes. He didn't know what was happening, but he instinctively knew that stepping off this ship would change everything. Cullen's voice came again, closer this time.
Harry, you ready?
Trevor swallowed, forcing himself to stand. He looked at the door, then at the note in his hand. The one he had unfolded and refolded so many times the edges had begun to soften. My name is Daniel. Trevor slipped it into his pocket.
I'm coming.
He stepped toward the door. The lights flickered once, then steadied.